All right, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order at 6:04. So welcome everyone. Hope you've all had a good month since the last time I've seen you all. Thanks for attending. I also see we have a lot of attendees in general, not just their committee members. So I'll extend a welcome to them and thanks for coming. And hopefully this is, somewhat interesting to them and they hear things that they're interested in. And I'll just let a little reminder that at the end of the meeting, there'll be a moment for any public comments or questions or anything like that. And so that will come near the end of the meeting, but welcome to them as well. So first, as always, I'll hand it over to Leah to take roll.
Hey everybody. I don't know if this is on the agenda. I can't remember. Let me actually look here before I embarrass myself. Well, we have a couple of introductions coming up next. Chesney, but also we have a new member, Sherrod Johnson. So I got that email today. So I'm glad you're here. Thank you so much for attending. But just so you're aware, right now I'm just going to call roll. So just come off mute and just say you're here, even though I can see you. Wonderful. All right. First will be Valen Alford.
Hi, I'm here.
Hey, Valen. Robert Brown.
Present.
Myself, present. Rashaki Furness.
I am here.
Alexa. Oh, no worries. Alexa Hartenstein.
I am here.
Sherrod Johnson.
I'm here.
Amy Jones.
Here.
Seth Candle.
Present.
Richard LeBennett. I don't think Richard's here yet. No. Brian Langloss.
Present.
And Ann Rebeck.
Present.
Wonderful. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Leah. As Leah mentioned, we do have Chesney here, who's going to be taking over the role Juliet had. And then also Sherrod, did I say that right?
Yes.
Sherrod. And so Chesney, if you want to introduce yourself, and then Sherrod, I'll have you introduce yourself real quick.
Sure thing. So I am Chesney Upchurch. I am in community development. I am a senior administrative technician. So I will be here taking on the role of Juliet, and hopefully I can live up to that that mark that she made.
I'm sure you'll do great. We're glad to have you. Sherrod?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sherrod Johnson. I am president of RNS Sports, which is a nonprofit here in Durham for at-risk youth. Pretty active here in the city of Durham. And honestly, just happy to be here. Happy to serve my city in a greater capacity. And so thank you guys for having me.
Thank you. And we look forward to hearing your voice here and what you have to bring and contribute. And we're glad to have you. So first, next thing on the agenda is going to be review and approval of the minutes from last meeting. So hopefully everyone's had a chance to look at those and look over them. Does anyone have any comments or changes that they need to suggest? All right, hearing no complaints about the minutes, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes.
A motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. So yeah, just voice vote as always. All those in favor of approving the minutes as is, say aye.
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 All those, any opposed, say nay. All right, hearing no opposed, we will approve the January minutes. Moving on, I don't know if Reginald had any introduction he had planned for Dr. Pullum, but we are going to welcome Dr. Michael Pullum. He's going to be the Neighborhood Stabilization Manager for the Community Development Department, and he has a little talk he's going to walk us through today. So take it away, Michael.
All right. Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Michael Pullum, Community Development Manager for Neighborhood Stabilization. And I don't want to be before you long, but I want to at least leave with you what stabilization basically means in our community development department. Some of the activities, can't talk about all of them, but I want to hit on some of the major activities that we undertake. I think when we think of neighborhood stabilization in community development, we actually are talking about a section that's a little unique in that we actually address affordable housing needs through construction and rehab, and we also address community service needs. So we're sort of the combo package. We want to provide the services to the residents that we provide affordable housing to. Again, can't go down every project, but I do want to hit on some of what I call our major emphasis in our team, in our stabilization team. I want to start by talking about, let's see, I'm going to start with our down payment assistance program. I'm sure a lot of you've heard about this program. This program is designed to assist first-time homebuyers with home ownership opportunities. The interesting part is that, you know, in the market that we're in, the cost of housing is just so exuberant that we can't really lock in on how we can be of most assistance to first-time homebuyers. But we believe that if we provide second mortgage assistance to home buyers, will be able to help in some way. That means they would have to get a first mortgage and they would have a second mortgage, but that will help them at least gain an opportunity to become a homeowner. Right now, to give you a status update on the program, that particular program is near launch. When I say near launch, that means we're almost ready to start providing subsidy to our low-income home buyers. The Community Home Trust is actually administering that program for us and working closely to design a program that will be usable for our first-time home buyers. I also want to talk a little bit about our eviction diversion program. We partner a lot with people. We don't always do the work, but we can provide the funding. For the eviction diversion program, we actually partner with the Legal Aid of North Carolina. That is so important because we have a lot of renters who are on the verge of being evicted from their dwelling unit. And you can imagine the trauma that comes along with that. Well, maybe that person has been delinquent in their rent, but still everyone deserves an opportunity to have a decent, safe, and sanitary place to live. So what we decided to do is to partner with Legal Aid. Legal Aid is unique in that many times the landlord has had it with the tenant and is ready to evict, but Legal Aid has a way of going in and negotiating in some way to help keep that tenant in the unit. And through negotiation, perhaps a reduced rental fee might occur, but the end result is that tenants are given an opportunity to remain in the unit, which provides an affordable housing unit for someone. Now, again, one of the restrictions is that once the landlord agrees to accept the offer or the negotiation, that tenant cannot then be put out due to arrears. It starts over again. Now, you can get in trouble again, but you have to be given a fair opportunity to move forward with your life as a paid in full tenant. Another program that we've had an opportunity to work with has been the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. That, again, through Legal Aid, that was a lot of money. That was $6.5 million in U.S. Treasury funds. Same purpose, to assist citizens with staying in their units, emergency rental assistance to landlords to help keep renters, because we deal with renters and homeowners. We want to make sure that renters are treated fairly and that they have access to affordable housing as well. We also deal with what we call the minor repair and substantial rehab program. That's important. This is a program for our homeowners. Once you become a homeowner, you think maybe you'll be there for a long time, and you could, but we find out that these programs that we've designed for our elderly homeowners are very useful and effective. A lot of times as you get older and maybe you retire, your funds are not as they used to be, and it's hard to make the necessary improvements to your home. Well, here's an opportunity through the city minor repair program to make improvements to keep your house from getting in a substandard condition. We like to think that this first program helps prevent someone from moving to the next level of need for their particular housing unit. So our minor repair program offers up to $9,500 in repair funds to a homeowner. And that those things cover those are major repairs, like maybe a roof, a furnace, a new HVAC, plumbing, and maybe some flooring. Those funds are earmarked for major repairs. They're minor repairs, but they're major repairs. You won't get a lot out of 9,500, but it will bring your house preferably up to code. Then we have what we call the substantial rehab program. Substantial rehab program is investing between $35,000 to $50,000 in improving a homeowner's unit. Elderly, again, emphasis. And this will, when we say substantial, we mean stripping a housing unit down to the studs and rebuilding with drywall, new flooring, roofing, you name it, everything to bring that house. Really, it's a new house when we finish with it, and it adds life to that unit for that elderly person to continue to live and for their heirs at some point. So we are excited about that. Now, both of those programs have Habitat for Humanity involved. Habitat administers the minor repair program, and currently Habitat takes in the applications for our substantial rehab program. Minor repair has been up and running for us. I think this is going into the second or third year now. We're getting ready to go into the third year. The substantial rehab program, we're really bringing it back. So we have received some of the first approved applications from Habitat so that we can begin the actual work on the substantial rehab program. We also want to talk about our a couple of services, community services. I want to cite our longtime homeowner grant program. This is a program that council really endorsed and saw fit for us to try to provide assistance in property tax. Once you, again, elderly, once you own your home, you still have the responsibility to keep property taxes current, or you become in jeopardy in some ways of losing your home. So we have a program called the Longtime Homeowner Grant Program. It's not called tax assistance program because there's something legal about that we couldn't exactly say that. So we named it the LHG program, Longtime Homeowner Grant Program. It is to keep people in their home. They've been there a long time. We want them to remain even longer. What we do, we provide through application and eligibility, we provide funding to reimburse homeowners for the property tax that they paid the year before. So the person has to pay their taxes, but once we have documentation that taxes are paid, we're then able to use a formula to determine the reimbursement for that particular low-income homeowner. So that's been very successful. We've had it 4 years. This is the fourth year. We don't have the authority to fund it again, but I just want you to know how successful that program has been, and we're currently trying to conclude that particular program. We also launched into something new for us last year. It was called the North Carolina Construction Training Program. Again, a lot of partnering takes place in our department. We actually had a partnership with the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency and with the North Carolina Home Builders Association, and a partial activity with Habitat. But the goal was to take lower income individuals and to help them gain a trade. Construction is a sound market. There's always a need for that. So our goal was to work with these individuals to gain basic construction knowledge and training, and they received tests and they graduated. And actually their first project was to construct and I'm saying high quality storage shed. It is beautiful. Has a window, looks like all it needs is an HVAC unit and some drywall, and that could become a tiny house. It's really a nice project. But I just wanted to say that I witnessed the results of that project from one of my team members as he carried that out. I attended the graduation, and in a situation like that, you have to understand it's greater than just the construction of the unit. It was an opportunity for people who maybe have never had an opportunity, as they would say, to feel like they've achieved something, but to see those young men and women there who now they've achieved something, and you could see the pride written all over their faces. So it was a great experience, and we're planning to have another class that will launch later this spring. last program I wanted to touch on today is what we call the Durham Public Schools or Promoting Academic Learning Program. This is important, very, very important program that we tried last year. Hopefully can repeat it again. It was basically focusing in on low-income elementary school students who in some way may have some academic challenges. This program is designed to provide special assistance and training to those young people in elementary schools. Those schools are located in our lower income target areas. So it's important. And, you know, to, again, another wonderful experience to watch a kid grow and excel without some of the challenges and barriers. I think that's a wonderful investment for taxpayers' money. So I just kind of wanted to hit on current programs. I will leave you with where we are now in neighborhood stabilization. You know, we continue to do new things. Right now, we're in the process of actually deciding what new projects or activities we plan to undertake. And I want to talk about a few construction opportunities for us. We will soon issue requests for proposals or RFPs. That's to keep our procurement process equitable. We will issue RFPs for a number of activities, one being what we call our city-owned surplus properties. What that means is the city of Durham has a number of parcels of land that are owned by the city, but they're vacant. Perhaps they're not, as I would call, grade A, you know, where everybody would jump at the opportunity to build. But we have to remember we're living in a time now where the housing market is so difficult and so tight that opportunities we used to would ignore, we now have to give serious consideration to every opportunity now. So surplus properties mean a lot now in our communities and will to our developers. What happens in this scenario is the city sort of vets a list of properties from our real estate department and decide that we want to place those in an RFP. So important to know that everything we do is competitive. It's real procurement and we make people compete. We don't just award money or projects to people because of their experience or we've worked with them before or like. With that, we will issue an RFP to interested developers. A lot of nonprofits use this and this time around, the first time we did it on a smaller scale, we offered the land only. This time, looking at what we have done in the past, we thought it would be useful to offer to convey the city land and to provide the necessary funding to construct the affordable unit. We don't want our nonprofits to have an opportunity to gain land necessarily and then not be able to receive the proper financing to construct. We defeat the purpose. So that's sort of that's in our mind right now. It hasn't happened yet, but that's a vision for us to have more of a combo package this time, land plus construction financing. Another upcoming project that we'll work on would be a possible nonprofit developer initiated small scale development. By that, we mean our nonprofits are able to go in, build, 8, 10 units, and sometimes even less, but they're able to do rehab and new construction, something that other developers may not see as the right fit for a large scale development, the small scale development. One of the most exciting opportunities I think that we've had in a long time is for our department to go back into the South Side community. I'm sure most know where that is. If you were here some years ago, you know that South Side looks totally different than it looked 10 years ago. And we've had an opportunity to provide home ownership, rehab, some rental assistance there. And now we have another opportunity to go back to what we're calling the Beeman assemblage. You may know it being located very close to Gethsemane Church and parcels facing the Piedmont Avenue, East Piedmont Avenue. We now want to take a planning look, a comprehensive look at what the most suitable affordable housing should be for that particular project. Now, this is big. We call this is also city-owned property, but because it's contiguous, we want to consider this an assemblage or a big project, right? So we basically are now studying options, examining options for what type of housing should go there. Now, one thing we are going to insist on and have adhered to is heavy involvement or community from the residents, from our current Southside residents. We work with those residents a long time, and we've heard from them over and over again that they still would like to see some type of home ownership opportunity there. Well, we're going to do our best to see how we can make that happen. If it's possible, we will definitely try to make that happen. It might look different this time. Years ago, home ownership meant single family, freestanding, detached units. Well, maybe it's not quite going to look like that this time. Maybe it's attached, but home ownership, which is a primary goal for our section and for our department. We're going to go into Beeman and just see where we can go with the Beeman assemblage. Right now, one of the visions is to, utilize professional planning and engineering firms to help us get a feel for the current market for that site. And then again, using the input from the residents and our city staff skill and experience, we hope to produce something that we really will be proud of and will be a good fit for all of the public and private investments that have gone into the Southside community. Again, I can't cover everything that we're doing, but I wanted to at least give you a general overview of the activities and projects that our neighborhood stabilization team, what we undertake in order to contribute to the housing and community service needs in Durham. I thank you very much for this opportunity to even speak to you about it. And I know I'm going to see a lot of you in other settings that I'll be involved in very soon. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Michael. Before kind of turning it over to the rest of the board, if they have any questions, I'm going to kind of use the privilege of being the chair to ask one or two first. The first one is going back to this long-term homeowner grant program. You mentioned it had been very successful over the last few years. And so I'm kind of curious as to what the restrictions are in place that kind of prevent us from continuing it or prevent you all from continuing it. Is this just the funding is kind of dried up, or are there new kind of requirements in place that prevent it?
No, I don't think so. I think basically, we try to have various options for programs and activities. We have done this. We depend highly on council directives, to continue with programs. I don't think it's anything specific. I think that we have basically completed that activity. If we were instructed, we go back. But right now we're, trying to move into some other areas. We like to disperse equally our funds and to try to provide, activities for all of our citizens.
Okay. And then my second question.
I'm going to jump in also. That remember that the county has a long-time homeowner grant. They call it something different, and the city actually contributes to that program, and that's countywide.
Okay. And then my second question is kind of looking at the construction training program jointly with like the RFPs. Is as part of the RFPs, do you ask people to like, oh, if you're going to be, developing this land or something, like we want, some like a requirement to bring on like these trainees as part of the development of those RFPs or?
Yeah, it is actually it's a combination, but what we'll be looking for are organizations or builders who can take on the participants in the program. The participants come, they are trained, they receive their education or training in construction, and then it's time to complete a project. That's the test, right? And so we'll be looking competitively for organizations that will have the capacity to take on the participants and allow them to complete their training program through hands-on guidance and experience. Yes.
Cool, thank you. I'm going to turn it over to the committee now. So Amy, I see your hand up first. We'll do you, and then we'll do Sharad and Valen.
Hi there. Thank you very much, Dr. Pullen. This was
very informative, and it's just a shame that you guys don't have enough work to do, it seems like. But I have a question. This is related back to, it's both the eviction diversion program and the emergency rental assistance program. Are there like, and maybe it's two questions that are related to each other. But I guess, are there caps, either income caps or rent caps, or for somebody who can participate in that program? So like if somebody was in a rental unit that was $2,500 and they can't afford that, I'm assuming they don't qualify for this. And when you were describing both of those programs, I noted that you used the term to keep folks in affordable housing, but is that like affordable housing like what we think about, or are you just saying like housing that is affordable for them?
Housing, well, one, housing is affordable for them, but you realize that with all of our government money, with the federal monies that I talked about from the U.S. Treasury Department, and with the funding that we're using, we do have income caps, and we have caps on what the monthly rent should be for a unit by bedroom size. So it is not for people who have $2,500 or $3,000 a month rents. It is actually for people who are needing a place that's affordable to them. So yes, we do follow the appropriate income and rental restrictions for those units. Yes.
So both of those programs are federally funded?
The U.S. Treasury is federally funded. The eviction diversion program is city funded through our dedicated housing funds. Many times in our city funded programs, we will lean toward the same criteria and restrictions as if we were using federal funds, because we want to benefit that target group, the target income group.
Sherrod?
How you doing, sir? Appreciate everything that you're doing. It was a great presentation. Quick question about the grant with Durham Public Schools. Number one, how's that marketed, or how is it, how do people know about it? Number one. And then number two is, I guess, how do we know, or how do we choose the students that are, utilized for that funding?
Okay, I'm so fortunate because I have Mr. Johnson here. He was in on the beginning of the program, how it was structured and created, and I'm sure he can explain that.
I'll be glad to. Thank you, Dr. Pullum. So just to be candid, this is one of my favorite projects in the work that we do. Not just because I was the brainchild of it. But one of the things, we had COVID funding, and we sought a partnership to see how we could help Durham Public Schools with learning loss. And we have to, because it's CDBG, we still have to use the same CD Community Development Block Grant requirements. So either we have to certify the households in the income limit that Dr. Pullum just talked about, or we have to certify the area. And there's, that's rule talk. So I won't get in, but in this particular instance, we can certify the area that the schools are in, and the Durham Public Schools chose the schools based upon the location of where they're located. And we can make proxies based upon, according to the rules, based that the students will have certain, come from certain types of households in terms of income limits. So that's how we get to the CDBG rules. And make that make them qualify. Then what the school actually did within the school was look at students who had learning loss, low precipitous grade, dropping grades, absentees, all those things during COVID. And so the program focuses on helping them in school and at the end of school out with tutors and some after school programming and during school program, and actually some field trips. So the schools that are participating at 4 elementary schools, and I'm trying to make sure that I remember them, which I should be, but I know that I think Burton is one, Eastway is one. Not remembering the other two right off the top. I want to see WG Pearson, but I can't remember. But we can get those to you. But it's schools in the Durham Public Schools, pick the schools.
Got it.
Does that help any?
It does. And so this is only open for elementary schools,
Oh,
correct?
yes, this is definitely open. They're targeting elementary schools.
Got it.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Valen?
Hi, thank you, Dr. Pullum, for providing us with the information and the overview of everything that you all have going on. And I just had a couple of questions. The first one is regarding the repair programs that are targeting the elderly. Are these programs only for the elderly, or are they prioritizing elderly? And if so, is there like an age group that is part of the qualifications? And also with that, is there, if it's just for the elderly, are there similar programs or plans to create similar programs for residents who don't meet the elderly designation?
I'm sorry, I heard everything you said except the specific program. What program was that?
The minor
The rehab programs. Oh, yes.
Substantial,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, our rehab programs are elderly age 62 and older.
Okay. Are there plans to have similar programs for the general population?
Well, the programs we have are basically based on income, and that allows us to spread our money the most and benefit those in the, I guess, in greatest need. Now, due to the housing market, everybody's in greatest need. But right now, I think we'll be confined to our traditional low mod income criteria.
Okay,
And-
thank you.
And
And then,
let me just interject. And Dr. Pullum, do we still focus on disabled?
And disabled, I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, it is elderly and disabled. So that brings about a different gist. We get a lot of elderly, not as many disabled, but yes, that is one of the criteria.
And it's disabled, isn't it disabled of any age?
And yeah, it is not
It's
elderly,
disabled,
it's
it's-
disabled.
Yeah, it's disabled of any age, and age 62 is the age.
Yes,
Thank
that's a good point. Mhm.
thank you for that clarification. And then one other question to piggyback off of Amy's questions, but so I recognize a lot of the programming is targeting low income families, and with so much changing here in Durham in terms of like the gentrification and I mean, just nationally, like the cost of living rising. And, we have a lot of people in this area working in STEM and things like that, but we also still have a lot of teachers and people making regular money. I don't know what the actual cutoffs and determinations are for low income, but are there opportunities for us to create programs or resources for people who may be underemployed or I'm trying to think of a nice professional way to say it, but I know personally, we always had too much to need assistance, but we definitely could have benefited from more assistance. And I'm just wondering, especially with gaps, like, referring back to, I think somebody mentioned the South Side, the South Side is clearly a place where you can ride down and see the changes happening. And so just wondering, is there a place for those people who fall in the gaps who may be like long-term Durham residents or are working and may not be low income, but are still struggling to meet their housing needs?
I think I understand. Basically, I wanted to start by saying that the criteria that we use is actually established by the federal government. It's called the HUD income chart. And that income chart is actually updated annually. So that's one way incomes are considered. As things change, as incomes change, those changes are reflected on the HUD income chart. Again, right now, our focus and consideration is toward people who fit in that category of the HUD income chart. We know that, at least I've seen, I think around, there are organizations though that are non-city related who are beginning to take looks at what does it take to reach this, I guess I'm going to call it the gap, people who are not there, but they're not quite there. That's the gap that we're trying to reach to provide affordable housing and activities. So it seems to me like there are organizations or nonprofits out there that are trying to see what programs would be appropriate for that. But at this time, our programs are actually earmarked and geared toward the use of that, I'll just say the HUD income chart, which takes us up to slightly moderate income, low mod income. And it's I don't have one in front of me, but it is various income categories on that chart. So if you don't fit here, you may fit here. It's up to, I think we're going up to 80% of the median family income for Raleigh-Durham. Well, it's not Raleigh-Durham, it's Durham. Unfortunately, Chapel Hill is mixed into this income chart as well. I think I see a hand. Are you finished, ma'am? I'm sorry.
I am, thank you.
You are?
And let me just add,
Yeah.
this, and I'm sorry for just interjection, but for a family of four, the total household income of $76,400 a year. For a family of one, the income is about, I want to say about 56,000. That's
Thank you.
household income.
Mhm.
And that's a standard that we go by, but I understand what you're raising,
Sure.
the people who just above that. And the question is, do we assist them? The answer is no, but that doesn't mean they have needs. And this is how we sort of can get into semantics, because a lot of times people focus on workforce, for example, workforce housing, which typically goes from 80% AMI goes up. But those are typically different programs, and they focus on what people do for a living as opposed to they can focus on what people do for a living as opposed to what the household income. Our programs look at household income.
Yes. Thank you for those numbers.
You're welcome.
We have one more question from Terry, but real quick before that, just because the attendees have had kind of a lot of the same similar questions about how to qualify for RFPs and the timelines on that. All the RFPs get listed on the community development website, right?
Yes, the request for proposals, RFPs, are all published on the community development website. But I wanted to give you a time frame. Basically, when I talked about the surplus properties, also work with, if there are possible in developer initiated small scale development projects, and even some of the earlier services for Beaman, we're looking at, I'm going to say early summer, right after the end of our fiscal year, July, our new fiscal year. So you can begin to look for advertisements. That's the track that we're trying to stay on, because we really want to make some of these activities occur as quickly as we can, but slow enough to make them great. But just be looking. They are publicized, and again, that's a big thing. It's personal for me too. I am always in a position to want equitable opportunities for all people, especially in development. We need everyone having that opportunity. Even if you decide you don't want to do it or take advantage, the opportunity should still be there.
Thank you. Take it away, Terry.
Hello all. For those who don't know me, I'm Assistant Director in the Community Development Department. Just a point of clarification, because I could have heard different things. So Dr. Pullum, as you were stating, we were talking about the minor repair program and the substantial rehab program. Just want to make sure that for the substantial rehab program, that is not just for elderly, correct? Or is it just for elderly now?
Yes, the emphasis is on elderly. Yes.
Okay, so it's elderly and disabled. And under the certain home
income. I'm sorry.
Under the certain home income, well, not home.
Yes, under
that certain medium income limit.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, and that's the same for minor repair as well.
Same
for have the same. Okay.
Yes, that's right.
Just want to make sure there's a point of clarification.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I'm the same understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? If not, I'm going to do a few of those kind of one-off questions here we have from attendees. So one, Donna Frederick is curious about the first-time homebuyer program and the rollout time frame for that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so back to our down payment assistance program. We are currently bringing our planning to a close. We're ready to basically launch very soon. We're anticipating that the launch will occur within the next 2 months. That means loans being made. We are finalizing our underwriter and getting the program in this last stage to launch. So within a 2-month period, we anticipate being able to move forward with the actual loans, the first of the loans. Now, people have already applied for the loans through Community Home Trust, and there will be process and procedures that will be published for everyone to follow, so people will know how to apply for funding.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mhm.
And I think that covers the questions we had from attendees. So yeah, Michael, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
As always, as I've said for the last few months, as we've brought in various people from the community development department, it is really great kind of seeing more of the detailed level of kind of what is everything going on. So thank you for taking the time to share with us everything going on and answering our questions.
The last thing I appreciate the opportunity, but I can't leave without thanking this fine neighborhood stabilization team that works with me. I don't do all the work. I just sort of lead the team, but I have 5 people that I'm excited about working with, and they're excited about community development. So I just wanted to give a big shout out to my team before I leave. Thank you so much.
Of course, thank them for us as well. As you see them next tomorrow.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.
Moving on, Reginald, you had a community development update you wanted to share?
Well, I'm sorry, I'm on mute. I would say that, I'll be brief. I just wanted to share the major points that we're working on as a department. One of the things is that we are hiring. We have 12 vacancies. We just filled one, and we're probably on our way to filling another 3 within the next 10 days or so. But of course, we still have a ways to go. And that means that our department had a vacancy rate of about 30%. And so we're trying to fill those positions and run those searches, but we have some promising employees. Number one priority, we're actually working in, we did get our budget in to the department. I'm thankful for the staff to be able to do that. And it will be under consideration for the madam manager and then to the council. But we also are working on a financial assessment accounting of the Forever Home Durham program, and we'll be able to share that with you once we share it with the manager and get her a review and approval of it. And so we have that on the agenda as well.
Thank you. So yeah, the next one is going to be board discussion, other business. Unless anyone has anything else to talk about, I feel like this is mostly going to center on Community Development Week and what we actually want to do and locking down plans for our activities that week. So having not received any other suggestions over the last month, kind of the 4 ideas we have are going to be touring various of the funded properties, the CDBG funded properties, and getting kind of hands-on view of the properties, their needs, things like that. The other idea is a reception with the grantee organizations that we've been funding to kind of acknowledge their work that they've done and thank them for everything they've done in the community. The third is going to be some sort of community service work with organizations related to the work we do, whether that's community service with one of the homeless organizations, one of the communities we serve, things like that. And then the last one is going to be some form of kind of community engagement, outreach, things like that. And so those are kind of the four broad categories we have right now. I think the best way to go about doing this is, I think if we have someone who is interested in taking a lead on any one of those four, I would support them taking the lead on it and kind of working for it and pushing at it. But I would open the floor up to discussion if anyone has any thoughts or comments or things they'd like to share about how they want to see Community Development Week go.
I remember there was a little bit of discussion about this outreach project on the last meeting. And so would that be like going into the community with information about the homeowners assistance program, or what exactly were we visioning for that?
Yeah, so at this point, I don't think we have a clear vision of what that would be. I think it would be some version of going into the community and spreading information awareness of various CDBG funded programs. And yeah, so what exactly that would look like. Again, that's why I said I think if there's someone who's passionate about one of these and wants to take lead on it in organizing it, I think they would have a lot of leeway to kind of shape what that specifically would look like. So, Sherrod?
I wouldn't mind taking the lead on that.
Sure.
And just as a reminder, y'all, it is a week. So it is between April 10th and 15th. I want to make sure that whatever we decide, this is just me as a project manager, bringing my professional life into this. But I just want to make sure that we are just understanding of our capacity, both as a group and especially if we're asking things of the community or are doing things with the community, that we really focus in so that we get good participation or engagement, both from us and the community at whatever we do. I'm a little worried that if we do maybe 3 different things, first of all, not all of us are going to be able to come to 3 things in 1 week. I already know that that's not going to be able to happen. So I want to make sure that whatever we do, we are really invested in it. And if it's more than one thing, that's fine. But we just need to be really clear about what that would, how many folks are needed, what exactly are we going to be doing, and also not making too many requests either of community development or different communities or other organizations that we work with.
Agreed. Yeah. To that, one with Community Development Week, I wouldn't expect everyone on the committee to be able to attend every event we do, whether it's 1, 3, whatever. But yeah, I would agree. I would not want to plan on doing something if only like 2 people are going to be able to make it, but yeah, so definitely right now, as we plan and get people to take leads on projects, if things, it turns out, aren't shaping up like we would like them to, we can always rethink things. But yeah, we should be cognizant of not overcommitting. That's a good point.
And April 10th, that is a DPS holiday, actually. It's Easter Monday. And so that, it's just, in some cases, it's going to make people more available, in some cases less available, probably, but just, we might be able to kind of use that school holiday too.
Yeah, that is a good point. That is also a good point in terms of like if we think about kind of community service work. I know holidays tend to be big community service days in general, so that actually might help us in some regards as well. So
I wonder if I know I'm fairly, this is going to be my first year with with this project, but I feel like my initial thought with it is thinking about getting some sort of feedback about the programs from community members. I mean, I'm assuming that that's sort of an ongoing process, I would hope, just like in an evaluative way. I feel like that might be a better use of our time than perhaps touring. I don't know, something about that feels off to me. But Yeah, I mean, just getting community input and like feedback about some of these programs in order to make sure that they're really meeting people's needs. And especially if they're looking at putting funding in different places, like maybe that would be able to, provide some feedback into like where money is needed. One of the comments said that one of those programs, that there's a 2-year wait list for it. Things like that need to be shared, in my opinion. But again, capacity, it's a week and night.
Yeah, as a valid point. In terms of feedback, I will say it is hard for us because we tend to fund other organizations that then do things. It's hard for us to necessarily know how to target who for feedback. And so largely we've relied on essentially getting feedback from our grantees, who in turn work with the communities they're serving to get feedback from their community. And, that always has, the kind of little game of telephone and all the issues that go along with that. But that has largely been how we've kind of been able to assess programs as we bring in people to talk about them. But yeah, that is a good point. To your point with touring, I know in the past, I know last year a group toured a few properties, and they coordinated with the kind of like residential lead liaison person to essentially meet with them to tour and get feedback kind of directly that way. And so that's how, yeah, maybe touring is maybe not the best word, but it's hard to think of what the other word would be.
Okay, no, that
Like
makes
a site
that makes
visit or
more
something.
sense. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I had a thought, in a conjunction with what Alexa brought up. Maybe if it's if it'd be hard for us to do the evaluative part, if there's a way for us to maybe increase awareness, just from the way that I was understanding it, it sounds like a lot of the programs you learn about through other organizations, like you connect to Habitat for Humanity, and then they'll tell you about a rehab program. But maybe there's a way for us to like empower the community and say like, hey, did you know that these programs exist? And maybe having them start from that. I don't know if it would be like a reception or something, but maybe if it was just hey, come learn about all the resources in our community regarding housing or housing repair or what have you. But maybe something to that effect.
Like a fair, Bellen?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like you.
Yeah, so like all the partners, like the implementing partners would have a booth essentially where they talk about the programs that they're.
Or just as simple as a table, for.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we can blast to like partners that we have, or I don't know. I mean, I'm old school social worker, so I don't know a whole lot, but if there's a way to even like do like a radio thing, but just I feel like sometimes there are a lot of great programs and you're kind of at the whim of social workers or 211 or what they know regarding your circumstance to let you know. And then there's sort of this word of mouth piece of, oh, like there's a whole program that does rehab for elderly in Durham. Like, if we have that knowledge, then we're able to help Miss Jones across the street who has been there for 30 years and then is now a widow.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess I know, Sherrod, you said you'd be interested in taking lead on some of this community outreach to kind of get the word out about some of these programs and stuff. Do you have an idea of what you're kind of thinking about already for that, or?
You want to give me a little bit, because off the top of my head, I can't. It's a whirlwind coming to me, but just from the presentation today, I'm pretty active in Durham, and I had no clue about honestly any of it.
Mm-hmm.
So if I feel that way as an active, engaged member here in Durham, and I can't speak for everyone here, but I know for a fact that some of the other citizens here don't know anything about it. And we're probably giving them an answer to a lot of the things that they're complaining about. And so my immediate thought is figuring out a way to where as though, we can be the bridge between the resource and the person that's in need. And so just give me a little bit to think about it. But this is some phenomenal stuff.
Yeah, no worries. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I was curious if you had like
Yeah.
an idea in mind already, as you were volunteering for that, or something you had
Yeah.
already were thinking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why
I will say I do love the resource fair. Just trying to figure out where we would actually do it to where as though it would make sense, where we're not having to necessarily do all of the work, where we can piggyback off somebody that's already doing something.
Mhm. I will say, I do like the fair idea. My concern is that could be a lot to put together in essentially a month. But that might be something, if we build out kind of like a smaller thing this year in terms of like this outreach and engagement. And then, I like that there's a lot of people very passionate about doing community development week right now. And so if we have like kind of a core, even in our bylaws, there is room for kind of a kind of permanent subcommittee for community development. And so that could be something that, we think about as a goal for maybe next year's community development week, of do some outreach this year and try to build up to, where we have a year to kind of plan and implement and find things to make that work. Where then next year we have like a larger fair or something like that. I think that could be a good long-term strategy there.
Absolutely.
Anne, I see your hand up.
Yeah, are we wedded? I know this year we are, but is it possible to do something not in that week, like to use our funds? And I just bring that up only because I really like the ideas that just came up, and I think there are some really amazing organizations that are building out some really great community events. Like one group that comes to mind is Book Harvest. I went to their event. I don't know if anybody went to that. It was over at where was it? The Golden Belt? Yeah. And it was jammed with people. I mean, I couldn't believe how many people were over there. I was like, I need to come, like I need to table at this for somebody. And so it just kind of made me think, like, if we could just partner, if we're going to be trying to get information out, partner with that things already exist, that already exist, but in some cases they wouldn't necessarily happen like within that week.
Yeah, so Community Development Week is actually a national thing for CDBG grant recipients. Is a whole like national thing. So in terms of like Community Development Week as like the event, it is kind of locked into that week. But we can always do things outside of that.
Yes, I will. One caveat. So, and just Sherrod, for your information as well, we as a committee have $1,000 of funds to spend before June 30th. I will say that even with a June 30th deadline, that might be a little hard putting together something as intensive as a really engaged resource fair. That doesn't mean like we can't do something outside of the week, as Anne was suggesting. I feel like maybe we should walk before we can run, as far as planning multiple events before June 30th, because that just seems like a little bit difficult. But if we don't use $1,000, we don't get it next year. So that's why we got to use it, so that we can use our $1,000 next year to do something really cool. Not that what we do this year won't be cool,
But to Anne's point, that Book Harvest, their MLK event is huge. And like Durham County last year put on a World Hunger Day event that was at Durham Central Park. There's like bounce houses and all this jazz. Like there are these events that are happening throughout the year where it's like there should be a table there with information there. And so, I mean, could we spend some of this funding just to print these flyers that we have on hand so that we can, when one of us through our professional networks hears about some big event that's going on, we just have them on hand and we've spent that money.
Yeah, I mean, that is a good point. Like if we're planning on, even if it's not a whole fair, if we're just planning on like when opportunities arise that we can get a table at something, it would be nice to have like some of those base things, like a little nice banner or like tablecloth that goes over a table or something. So like, we have the equipment on hand to kind of, if someone's available to go to an event or something like that, you know, that would be a consideration for the funds. Yes. Rashaki?
Yeah, I had a question. I like that idea too. What do they say? If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So we can have some stuff so we're like already prepared for opportunities to do outreach. But my question is, how many of us on this board are new to the board? Because the reason I'm asking is it takes us back to the for lack of still lack of a better way to say it, the touring, the touring, or the as Leah said, just, you know, kind of crawl before we walk. Like, for those of us that are new, maybe if we were more engulfed in what we do, it'll help kind of spark more ideas for how the funds can be used going forward, if that makes sense. Because I feel like there's a lot of new, I know I'm new. I consider myself new. I feel like there's a lot of new folks, you know. And so
Are you saying like something like a tour would be beneficial, or?
Yeah, something like a tour would be just again to kind of ground us more, right? Yeah. Because one of the things I wanted to ask at the end of the meeting was there was a orientation that was set up with you, Mr. Johnson, by Juliet, and the timing was like the day the invite was, there was a mix up with the invite. Mm-hmm. And so we didn't all get the orientation, the new board member orientation. Like, I think it's pretty important to just kind of lay some foundation, fundamental understanding of what we're trying to do here. And so again, using those funds to kind of solidify that a little more might be helpful, especially if the majority of us are a little newer.
I will say, from my perspective, as far as when folks join and cycle off, I would say, looking at the folks we have here, Brian's been here longer than me. I started in mid 2021, so not that long ago. New-ish still myself. I think everyone here except for Brian has joined since then. Please, someone call me out if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure. Oh no, Seth, were you older than me? No, okay, cool. You're shaking your head for a different reason. Wonderful. I was like, I think everyone here has joined since then, which is great. I mean, like, that's what happens with the 3-year cycle for most folks, and we don't all fall off at the same time, which is great. But Rashaki, can I try to summarize what you said and see if I got it right?
Yes.
I'm hearing maybe we need us. I feel like this is two things, right? I think we're talking about community engagement, which is a separate thing. I love Alexa's suggestion in the chat of this year really focusing on community stakeholders and gatekeepers that could further distribute that information as a way to walk before we run. I think that's an awesome idea. I know in this group alone, we have a lot of connections to those folks. And the second idea I'm hearing Rashaki about, maybe not development week, but it could be for that, but like spending some of this funding is maybe doing, retreat is such a loaded word, but y'all know what I'm talking about. Like a group event where we all really dig in and focus on the work, not just the wonderful information that's shared every month, because this is one of the most informative committees I sit on, trust me. But really focusing on, as a group, how have we worked? How do we work? And what are our responsibilities? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I think that'd be really awesome.
Along those lines, this is maybe more directed at Reginald. I know in the past, a lot of the meetings used to have kind of overviews of like the different grant programs. So I'm wondering if those like PowerPoints and things like that are still floating around somewhere that we could kind of bring out and share with the committee, or?
I think that we still have them. What he's referring to is the summaries and overviews of particularly the federal programs, community development block grant, CDBG, home investment partnership, or home partnership investment, as well as the emergency solution grants and the housing opportunity for persons with AIDS presentations. I think we probably still have access to those.
Yeah, because yeah, that might be a good idea. Is if we have some kind of retreat, whatever day where maybe it's we all spend a day at the community development building, and we get to go through these kind of talks and learn about this programs a little bit more in depth, and kind of interact with some of the people in the community development department, hear about their work, kind of the things we oversee and things like that. I think that could be a good idea. To kind of do a nice kind of like level setting and fill in all the information that, it has been kind of a weird year or so of kind of piecemeal people coming in and out and changes throughout the end of COVID and stuff. So yeah, that is a good point that that would be helpful. Yeah.
Well, and one of the 4 that you had originally suggested was some kind of a reception or meet and greet type of thing with the grantee orgs. And so, I mean, I could even see where like we're together for, a couple hours or something. And then at the conclusion of that, we invite folks in and so it could be almost a combination of those things.
It could be, yeah. And I was even thinking in terms of kind of, this outreach stuff we're talking about, we have all these grantee organizations that, this organization might know about one program we do because they get grants through it, and this one might know about another, but just kind of a broad, whether it's flyers or whatever, to all these organizations, like, hey, we just want to make everyone aware of all the work we have, all the things available. And if the communities you serve or people or other organizations you work with might benefit from these, we wanted to pass the information along and ask them to kind of share as needed.
And I don't know how we were planning to do this, but Sherrod, like if you wanted, committee supporters, I know I don't have the capacity to lead, so that's why I didn't speak up for that. But I can probably have some capacity to support. So
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Oh, Alexa too.
Yeah, same here. Amy Jones too.
Okay. I'm gonna write all y'all's names down in the minutes, so I hope everyone means it when they say yes. All right, but I love the subcommittee idea. We usually have a subcommittee or subgroup for this week. It's pretty normal. It just tends to like be more temporary, and it's fine if we make it more permanent moving forward. I think that would be a great idea. But I'm hearing the 2 ideas. I'm hearing the engagement, and then retreat / possible reception with our money to cater to these wonderful organizations who maybe deserve a night to get appreciated for the hard work they do. Cool. Would the I assume the committee would be doing both of those things.
I think so. I will say also from our executive meeting, Carl, the vice chair, wasn't able to make it this week, but he did say he'd be interested in, if there's a body forming, being a part of that. That's all. I'll throw his name on that as well. But what we can do is, I guess take a voice vote, just so we kind of, confirm that for Community Development Week, as a body, we want to do some form of community outreach in terms of informing people about programs and opportunities that community development department has, as well as some kind of, internal informational event thing to kind of bring us all up onto the same kind of base of knowledge.
Do you need a motion?
Probably. let's do them individually, each one. So I'll take a motion to approve a community outreach informational thing during Community Development Week.
I'll motion, Amy Jones.
Second, Sherrod Johnson.
All right, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, so we will officially be doing some form of community outreach to inform people of our programs for that week, and then also do one for an internal informational thing that may or may not include a reception.
I think we need to hold off until we have a chance to really nail down what it is we're trying to do. The outreach is fine, but at this point, I'm not feeling any particular plan in place or understanding of what that plan will look like.
Right. So the issue is because we have just over a month for this.
I get that, but that month, it could be 6 months as far as I'm concerned, because that month you don't want to not be prepared, So if it takes us longer, it takes us longer. In my opinion.
Yeah, that's fair. But for
it's meeting once a month, we just, we get this information and what's in the last month's meeting minutes, and there have been some positive developments that have come to us, but we're trying to plan events, and we're not meeting that often to plan.
Well, I just want to clarify. My understanding was that the second part of what we were going to be voting on, or the meeting, was to really get aligned and meet everyone in the committee to meet physically, and then to just kind of realign with or orient us in terms of, the context of the committee, and then more or less, I guess, like a strategic planning of where we want to go. And if that's what it is, I think that it may be feasible to meet during that week. And I don't know if reception is the right word, but I mean, it could be a pizza dinner, but I was under the impression that that part was more of an internal meeting with food. And if that's the case, I still think that it's feasible for April.
Yeah, the intent was voting on whether or not we should hold an internal thing to increase awareness and information within our committee.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, we're voting to begin the planning. We're basically saying okay, we've streamlined the focus. So let's.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah, and also that would entail the formation of the subcommittee, which we would have to all agree on.
Can we take a motion on this? We've been talking about it for about 30 minutes.
Yeah, I'll entertain a motion.
All right.
Do I have a second?
This is all right. I second you.
Thank you. And all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Hearing no opposed, we will go ahead with the plan of an outreach informational thing, as well as an internal informational session of some sort. I will reach out to those who said they wanted to be part of the planning for this, and we'll try to set up something soon to all meet and start kind of coordinating and organizing this as soon as possible. Otherwise,
I do have one last clarifying question.
Yes.
Sorry, Robert. Just in regards to the second portion, the retreat, we're not stuck on that being by Community Development Week, correct? We have time for that.
We have to spend the funds. We have until June 30th, Rashaki. So
Right.
it doesn't have to be in April, but I would say April or May, probably.
Okay.
Y'all. And that could also, I don't know if this is legal, not legal is the wrong word. If this is in accordance with our bylaws and our responsibility as a public hearing, like a public body, but Brian and or Reginald, could that take the place of one of our monthly meetings, or is that not allowed because that would be internal? Because I know that we have to abide by public meetings law.
No, it would be a public meeting. You don't have to substitute. It can be in addition to, it doesn't have to be in place of, but anytime you meet, we have to notice it, advertise it, and the public can come.
Makes sense. Thank you, Reginald. That's actually really helpful.
And I would also share that if the committee needs to meet, if no one has their own Zoom, we can make arrangements to use our Zoom, or if you want to meet physically, community development, we can work to make that happen.
Wonderful. That's good to know.
Perfect. Thank you. In that case, I'm going to table the discussion about Community Development Week for now. Also, I'm going to table the grant fund discussion because I think that is going to need the planning to be in place. And so we will wait on that until we have a concrete plan to actually vote on some use of the funds. And so the last one is we can actually open things up to public questions or comments. Chesney, I don't know if you can actually let attendees into the meeting so they can comment or share any questions they may have.
Okay, Diane, you should be able to talk.
You there, Diane?
There are a couple questions from her in the Q&A chat, Brian. Maybe that one.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I'll turn over her questions to Reginald because he's gonna be a little bit more familiar. But is who can send RFPs and was the process for submitting an RFP?
So who can submit an RFP? Typically, it's a nonprofit, sometimes for-profits, but it would outline in the RFP who can apply. That's one of the first things that's in the request for proposals or request for qualifications, what type of entity is permissible to apply. And how do we distribute them? We let persons know on our website through our listserv. We want to make sure that all of the new members in particular, that your names are on the community development listserv, that you have regular listserv information that's received that we send out to all of our nonprofit organizations and community members who are interested. I know, does that answer the question?
I think so, but we'll see if another question gets put in here. And then the other question here is the application process for the Durham Down Payment Assistance Program still open?
The program is actually, as Dr. Pullum said, is going to, what's the word I want to use? Reopen, I guess you would say, in a couple of months.
Okay. And then a clarifying question, is it only nonprofits that can submit to an RFP?
It depends upon what the RFP is. Generally, particularly when we're using federal funds, our money can go only to nonprofits. But it depends upon the type of work. If we're asking for work to repair something, that's of course not a nonprofit actually do the work. But it depends upon the type of RFP that's being issued. Usually has to have some type of corporate entity, whether it's nonprofit, for-profit, registered with the state of North Carolina. Hope that answers the question.
All right, thank you. Just scrolling through here to see if there's other questions in here. I think they are various statements. All right. And so then moving on to the next one. as announcements, I personally don't have any other than, again, welcoming our new member as well as our new staff member. Does anyone else have any announcements or news they want to share? All right. In that case, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All right. In that case, we are adjourned 7:24. Thank you all for your time. I know we went a little bit longer this week, or maybe not. But yeah, thank you all for your time. As I said, I'll reach out to the people who volunteered to take some lead and help on community development stuff, community development week. And so I'll reach out to them soon. Otherwise, thank you all for your time, and I'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, bye, everybody.
Take care.
Thank you, Chesney.
Bye. Thank you.
No problem.